And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ, Buck, back together. Buck, what is going on, man?
Not too much, DJ. It's funny. Free agent frenzy is great, but what it also is it's a distraction from being able to do all the work for the college stuff when we're trying to get ready for the draft. So you spend a week like having to dive deep into free agents and all this other stuff, playing matchmaker and all of this. But I'm like, yeah, I got to get back to the draft. I got to get back to like nailing that stuff down. And now the good thing is, you and I having worked in front offices, we know how they complement and balance each other. Like what you can't get in the draft, you get in free agency and vice versa. But it's a lot of info to take in. And I'm curious like now, because after we hit this weekend, everybody refocuses and resets, and there's kind of a pause on the signings as everyone begins to spend the next month kind of digging into the draft.
Yeah, and I also think there's this next wave where some teams have made some signings, which is going to free up some other members of their roster. Where you're going to see some guys get cut, potentially some trades that'll take place as they've made some moves at those existing positions, and you could see a little bit of movement there. I do think you hit a point that was interesting about freeing yourself up in the draft, and that's kind of what I wanted to hit on today, Buck, because I wanted to go through so many different ways to attack discussing the free agency stuff. But I wanted to go through and touch on, let's talk on the teams that finished last in their division. So if we're looking at the teams who had the most work to do, and you look at what they've done in free agency, I thought it would be kind of interesting way to see who's closed the gap a little bit, who's made up some ground. Let's start with the AFC East, with the New England Patriots finishing 4-13 last year. Look at what they've accomplished. Milton Williams, big money deal. Harold Landry comes over, reunited with Mike Vrabel from their time in Tennessee. Robert Spillane, Carlton Davis. They get Morgan Moses at tackle. Mac Hollins at receiver. They also just added Kayvon Chason, who you're familiar with. But a couple high-ticket items there, namely Milton Williams, and I would say at the right tackle position with Morgan Moses. So I think they wanted to do more on offense. Ronnie Stanley, they tried, weren't able to get it done. Chris Godwin, they tried, weren't able to get it done. But with what they did on defense, Buck, getting some key players there when you're looking at linebacker, corner, edge rusher, DT, I think it has freed them up in the draft a little bit to go, we're going to go heavy offense in the draft.
And I will say this, and we've talked about this before. If you're young at quarterback and young on offense, you want to be veteran laden on defense because you want the defense to be able to carry the water while the offense catches up. The other thing that we're seeing in this with Mike Vrabel, a lot of times we don't talk enough about the importance of having glue guys, the unheralded, underrated guys that really kind of keep the team together. What Mike Vrabel did, in my estimation, is he brought some glue guys, some culture guys to kind of get this thing going the way that he wants it. Harold Landry, he knew from his time at Tennessee, so he brings him over. You talked about Milton Williams coming over from a Super Bowl championship team, understands the importance of winning and how to get it done. You think about Robert Spillane and the success that he had with the Raiders where, look, Max Crosby is undoubtedly the dude, but he was the unheralded gem of that defense. Led him in tackles back-to-back years, and is a really good player, and he has like those intangible qualities that you want. Carlton Davis has been a winner, goes to two spots. When I look at this defense and how he's reshaping it, you remember all those years, the Patriots, like the original Patriots with Belichick and the defenses that Vrabel played on. They were always a little older, but because they were older, they could handle more volume. They could do more stuff on defense to keep the score down to allow their offense to stay in it. To me, Mike Vrabel's assembling that kind of defense. High IQ, professional defense that knows how to do whatever they need to do on a given week to win a game. That'll give them a chance to get back to closing the gap on the competition.
I was thinking about this, Buck. What if we had, and I think it's entirely possible, if you look at these first three picks, what if we did have two quarterbacks and Travis Hunter go in the first three picks, right? Then they're looking at Abdul Carter. And now you say, man, we want to do the offensive side, but if you're staring at Abdul Carter, And all of a sudden now you look up and you're the Patriots defense, and we've got Milton Williams, we've got Christian Barmore, we've got Harold Landry, Keon White, and now we also throw in a big time player like Abdul Carter. Like that changes your team real quick on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, I mean, and look, you gotta crawl before you can walk and walk before you can run. The Patriots' goal should be to go from wherever they were last year to let's see if we can get right in the middle of the pack. And the quickest way to do that is to get your defense up and coming. When you have veteran players, I mean, look, Washington hit lightning in a bottle with their quarterback exceeding expectations right away. But that's kind of what Adam Peters and Dan Quinn did. They got the defense up and going, and that gave them a chance to be competitive. And then the quarterback took them over the top. Well, why can't you do the same in New England? Hey, get the defense to get the team to a competitive level. And then Drake May is the sugar on top in terms of getting them to maybe be super competitive and beyond like the competitive aspect of being like a 500 team. I just like what they're doing. And I do like that it frees them up in the draft to do what we always say that you should do, take the best player available. Well, if Abdul Carter is sitting there staring you in the face at 4, walk the card in, because now your defense has a chance to go from good to great with a dynamic playmaker like Carter.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Patriots do. Let's keep it rolling here to the Cleveland Browns out of the AFC North, 3-14. Buck, Kenny Pickett trade was made. Malik Collins signs as a defensive tackle. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, edge rusher. Not much activity there for this team in free agency thus far. They had Russell Wilson in the building. We'll see what happens there. But a lot of that, man. Obviously, they paid Miles, but there is a lot. There's a lot left there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot left to do. But I was going to say, like, we can't bury the lead. They paid Myles Garrett. They gave him $40 million annually. Like, they completely broke the bank. And you know what's funny, DJ? It's funny that I can not like the culture, want to be committed to win. I want to find a winning.
What was that number again?
And then,
what was that again?
Yeah, and
what
then,
was that?
And then you slide that offer across the table. You're like, yeah, I'm a Brown for life. I am. Let's go Browns.
Somebody posted the Ted DiBiase little meme or whatever. Like, every man has a price.
Yeah, so funny. It's amazing how quickly that flipped. You know, I want to go
out. Was
yeah.
Virgil at the press conference, by the way, with the little suitcase? Open up the suitcase.
But you're right. They have a lot to do. Now, the funny thing, I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this. I was on Lance. Kenny Pickett being traded to Cleveland. I didn't think about it face value, Kenny Pickett being the starter. But what I thought about was Kenny Pickett being the style of the next quarterback that they're going to take, so that the playbook is the same. You know, we're not saying that Shedeur Sanders is going to be second, but of the prospects, like, he certainly looks like his game and Kenny Pickett's game would be more alike than different. If you're Kevin Stefanski, you certainly would like to have a quarterback room full of the same types. So I don't have to get all my papers out and change around when I'm changing quarterbacks. To me, that is what this move may signal, the type of quarterback that will eventually walk in the door for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. We get to the Giants, when we get to the NFC. I want to come back to Cleveland, marry those two together in just a little bit. But let's get to the AFC South. 3-14, the Tennessee Titans holding the first overall pick, Buck. They do some work on the offensive line. I thought Dan Moore, man, I thought that might have been a little rich there, but hey, it is free agency. That's what you do. Kevin Zeitler comes over, another offensive lineman. So a couple linemen there. Linebacker Barton, they go get Xavier Woods a safety, and then Draymond Jones a DT. So they've added some pieces there. To me, the two that are most notable are those two offensive linemen.
Yeah, it seems like they're raiding the runway for the quarterback, right? Like, so we always talk about, you want to make sure that you shore up the offensive line. You take care of the interior offensive line with Zeitler. You bring Dan Moore over to play tackle, and you're trying to make sure that the edges are protected. But this is all about making sure that whoever the quarterback is that he's going to be able to throw from a grassy knoll. You also want to establish the running game with Tony Pollard. So Zeitler gives you some of that ability, because he's a combo guard, in my estimation. He can be very effective in the run game, but is also solid as a pass protector. So it allows this offense to be balanced. And look, man, as they're working through whatever they're working through to come to the final decision and determination on who's going to be the number 1 overall pick, they have set the table for the offense to be able to get up and going because the offensive line should be better than it was a season ago.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing if they end up sticking and picking. If they do stick at one, Cam Ward to me is going to be the first pick in the draft. It's just a matter of who's picking. It's either going to be Tennessee sitting there, or maybe it's Cleveland or the Giants that end up coming up to that spot. But that feels like that's definitely where we're headed. Out of the AFC West, it's Tom Brady's Las Vegas Raiders. Buck, make the move for Geno Smith. Bring over Alex Kappa, who Brady would be familiar with. Raheem Mostert, Eric Stokes corner. Jeremy Chin, the safety, with what they've done.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Raiders got a lot of stuff done when they made the move for Geno Smith. They gave them a lot of freedom and flexibility to now at number 6, just let the board kind of work to them. We've talked about potentially that's one where they can take a big time running back, given Chip Kelly's history and how they want to run the football and those things. It also gives them the opportunity to kind of look and assess what other positions are out there, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a playmaking, whatever it is. They have the freedom to be able to do that because they at least have the veteran quarterback in place to run the system and lead the team, and the manner in which, Pete Carroll wants the quarterback to do it. And when I think about that part of it being done, now it becomes easy because on defense, Jeremy Chin had a really good year for the Commanders. You think about Landon Roberts, being able to bring him back, the familiarity that he may have with Patrick Graham in terms of like they've been in similar systems. And then Eric Stokes taking a flyer on a former first-round pick, trying to see if you can get him going in a new environment so he finally can realize the potential that some people saw in him.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me is, and I do like the fact that they brought back Malcolm Kuntz, who missed time with injury last year, but is talented. But Buck, man, they let 3 good players leave. Like when you're a 4-13 team, like you got a lot of things you got to solve. And I just thought maybe if you could have figured out, got ahead of it and got Merrick back, who played great last year at safety and obviously got a ton of money. Spillane, you mentioned a little bit earlier, going to the Patriots, who played great. And then Nate Hobbs is a really good nickel. So, it's interesting to see. They brought in some key pieces, Geno being the biggest, but also saw some key pieces exit the building. All right, Buck, let's get to this team. I referenced it a little bit earlier. The Giants, coming off a 3-14 season, holding a 3rd overall pick. Haven't done a ton. Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland, two excellent players in the secondary that they've added. They lost to Dory Jackson, but still waiting on the quarterback as we're recording this. I think Russell Wilson is actually on his visit up there. But I made this comment the other day, and I'll see if you're with me on this. But of the top 3 teams, Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants, with where each team is, where with each regime is at this point in time in their tenure, I think there should be more urgency with the Giants to try and get to Cam Ward however they can than any of those other 2 teams. And so to me, at this point in time with where they are in free agency, I think, I don't want to say gun to your head, but I would say like they should be on the phone every day trying to swing that thing and make that thing happen.
Yeah, no, they got to swing for the fences. They got to make this thing happen if they want to do it. Because if you're the Giants, you want to control your destiny. And if you're in what we say must-win situation with Brian Daboll, Joe Shane, and those, get the guy that you want to get and give up what you need to get up. Because guess what? If it doesn't work out for you, why do you care about those picks? So put yourself in a position to get the quarterback that you deem to be the right fit for the way that you want to run the team over the next 3 to 5 years. And if Cam Ward is that guy, then make it happen, because he certainly has the tools. He has the talent. He's athletic. Brian Daboll has a track record of being successful with athletic playmakers. Look, man, if they decide, Daboll and Shane decide that he is the one, then mortgage farm to get it up.
All right, I'm going to give you the trade. You tell me if you do it, because most times when you're trading inside the top 3, going from 3 to 1, it's normally traditionally a 20% overpay over the chart, like because it's a premium you're paying to get up there to get a quarterback. There's some instances where it can be in that 5 to 10% range. It's not often. I think the Trubisky trade where they just moved up 1 spot was like a 4% overpay, so it was still more than what the chart suggested. So if we say that this is not, a year with the premier quarterback, that let's say you only have to pay like a 5% or a 5 to 10% tax on that, this is the trade. Tell me if you'd do it. If you're the Giants, would you trade the 3rd pick, your 2nd round this year, your 2nd round next year? That's the 5 to 10% overpay.
So 2.
It's 2 twos. You're swapping 1 and 3, and you're giving up a 2 this year, a 2 next year.
Man, it seems like I still need to get a little more. Maybe just because the prestige of the pick.
Well, if you want to go to the 20% overpay, which is more standard, I don't think you're getting that. The 20% overpay would be the third, your second round pick, and next year's one. So the only difference is next year it's either a 1 or a 2.
Okay. Can I get the? I feel like I got to get the 15. Give me the 15. If we get the 15, maybe we can have a deal. Like we got the 10%. Didn't you give me the 10% overpay?
So that's the 10%. So you're saying just throw me an extra fourth round pick somewhere.
Give me
a little sugar. You want a little sugar on top.
Give me something. See, 50%. I feel like I'm winning. But now, here's the thing about it. If you're the Tennessee Titans, like you're now out of the deal unless you. I mean, obviously, you felt that way about the quarterback situation if you wanted to move up. So you're probably fine moving.
You know what this does though, Buck? You know what this does is if you do that, Tennessee, if they did the 5 to 10% deal that I was talking about, right? Tennessee would then have picks 34 and 35. You know what that does? That gives you a free pop. That's it. I get a free pop at one of those. I take Tyler Shuck with the 34th, 35th pick. You know, I don't know if Jackson Dart's going to be there, but you're getting that next. And if you're looking at it saying, you know what would you? It's our whole thing. What would you rather have? Would you rather have Shador, and then whoever you pick in the second round, or I get Travis Hunter, who I was going to take in the second round, plus Tyler Shuck, plus an extra second round pick next year. Like all of a sudden you stack up, it's Shador versus Shuck, another, Travis Hunter, and a second round pick next year. Like that gets interesting.
You may not know this. I know we've been doing this show forever, but you may not know that Price is Right is one of my favorite game shows. And basically what you did is we just did the Showcase Showdown. And so what you did is say, you can have, we can have this one over here. We can get all that. Or if you wait, you can take the next thing. So, let's tell that story, because now if we're in the draft room, Buck, it's not, because people will say, well, I like Shador better than, and we'll just use Tyler Shuck. I like Shador better than Tyler Shuck. But it's like, but do you like Shador better than Tyler Shuck plus Travis Hunter plus a second round pick next year? Like that's where it gets the debate.
interesting.
And we've talked about it, but it is kind of like the Showcase Showdown thing. Like which one would you want? Do you want what's behind door number 1 or door number 2? Like door number 2 may have more B pluses, whereas look, you may get the A, but then maybe you get a B minus. Whereas you're able to put really good players on the thing. The main thing, whenever you do these moves or whatever, it only works out if you nail the picks. Whether you pick in number 1 or whether you move around, you got to nail the picks for it to work out. And ultimately, how confident are you in, one, the talent that's going to be on the board at those picks that we're talking about, and you making sure that you get the right pick for the need that you have on your team. And they have a bunch of them.
Let me pull up these names here real quick. Let's see. I think I've got it on my computer here. 1 second. I'll pull up the trades that have been done historically up there, Buck, and we do this every year. Look at the names of, like, this is always the warning sign. If a team is willing to trade off of a quarterback, here's the quarterbacks that have been traded up for in the top 5 since 2011. Bryce Young, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, Mitch Trubisky, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, RG3. Couple interesting ones, but more misses than hits, I think we'd have to say.
Yeah, that what you did right there, it makes me kind of want to sit and pick. Like whatever player comes to me, like I want to do it. And maybe we're manufacturing those things sometimes when it comes to the quarterback. Like in our urgency to make sure we have a QB1 in place.
Well, what's telling? You know what's telling there? What I think we don't talk about is the reason why a lot of those trades don't work is because you don't have any picks to support the player. You just traded all your picks to go up and get the player.
I didn't think of it that way.
Does that make sense?
Way to think of it. Yeah, because let's be honest, and we do this segment on Path to the Draft where it talks about like operating instructions, but it's not only that, it's what are the other things that need to come with the quarterback to help them be successful. And most of the times, if we're picking up that high, we already have issues elsewhere, and we don't have the ability to immediately help the quarterback be a successful playmaker. Look, I think this draft is going to be more interesting as we get closer to it. I don't know if anyone has a strong sense of what people feel about. Let's just say that Cam Ward is the presumptive number one. What
Yeah.
people feel about 2, 3, 4, and 5, and is there a consensus order in which they view them? Like I mean that's really the thing, and it's not only the order, but DJ, how many of those other guys carry first round grades? Because we sat here and just watched the playoffs. If your quarterback isn't a first round quarterback, the odds of you going to the final four, going to the
It's
final
tough.
eight, slim and none. Because in the AFC in particular, you dealing with wizards. You're dealing
Yeah.
with Mahomes and Allen and Jackson and Burrow and others. The talent must equate to where we're talking about taking these guys.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. How about Chicago, Buck? 5-12, last place NFC North. Aggressive in trying to fix the offensive line with Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman. Then they go on the defensive line, Ode Angbo, Grady Jarrett. So it felt like, as I've said with some of these other teams, maybe they didn't do it right last year. You always want to go to the hardware store before you go to the toy store. And this was maybe a little bit too much time spent at KB Toys or Toys R Us. I think both out of business currently. But they went to Dixieline. They went to the hardware store this year.
So look, I like that line. That's a good one. You might need to use that one on TV. You might need to, I don't know
Okay.
if you've used that one before.
I think I
Like, but that
have. I
might
think
be
I have.
that might
But
be
yeah.
that might be like toy store, hardware store. I think we can get that because you're talking about the nuts and bolts of your team being in the trenches. And when you're talking about offensive line and making sure you can control the trenches and dominate at the point of attack and have the option or luxury to run and pass when you want to do either one, well, that is essential. The toys on the outside, like they're great. But man, if you can't put yourself in a position where you can impose your will or dictate the terms to the defense, you never get an opportunity to really utilize and maximize those toys on the perimeter. The Bears learned a lesson the hard way last year. They're making amends for it, trying to help Caleb Williams get right. And Ben Johnson had a lot of success in Detroit with maybe the top or the second best offensive line in football at his disposal. He understands that that set the foundation for the Lions to do all the fun stuff. He's taking that intel and trying to put it in practice in Chicago.
Yeah, no, I think it's the right way to go about doing things. I also think Ashton Genty, that opens up the conversation for him in the draft at that point in time too. And you've got a pretty good run blocking offensive line now, and now you've got a chance with some young triplets there, with Adunze going into year 2, with Caleb going into year 2, and then have Ashton Genty back there would be a fun offense to have in place. They could also, they could upgrade at left tackle too, whether that's Membu or Will Campbell. That option still is out there. New Orleans 5-12, Carolina 5-12, so they both tied for the worst record in that division. Why don't we start with Carolina? This is a team that swung big, tried to get Milton Williams, weren't able to get him in the boat, but got Trevor Merrick, who's a really, really good player. We talked about him. Travell Wart. They've got Patrick Jones, Rico Dowdle, the running back, Brown, the D tackle, Bobby Brown. So made some moves there for a team that, again, needed help all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, look, they need help everywhere, and it's one of those things. Like you see the improvement, you see some of the ground that they were able to close on the division rivals. But I'm just thinking, like, man, at some point, like with the young quarterback, like, what are we gonna get him to help him? I know we're banking on some of the picks from last year and those things, but you still like to see a little more sizzle. It's a good team, but can they? I feel like the teams in their division got much better. I don't know how I feel like they're still chasing.
Yeah. Again, this is a team last year was 29th in yards per game on offense, 32nd in points per game on defense, 32nd in total yards per game, 32nd in rushing yards per game, 29th in sacks, 32nd in pressure rate. Like defensively, as many holes as they have on offense, you'd like to help the quarterback. They stink on defense. So they try to take some swings there. I think Merrick and Wharton are solid players.
Good player.
But
good
I
players.
still think they need a premier edge player. And then on the offensive side, just, more firepower there to help your quarterback would be nice. We'll see what happens in the draft. That other team in the division we mentioned, the Saints, Not much there. Justin Reed, Isaac Yiadom. They re-signed some guys, but Paulson Adebo leaving was a big loss for them. Kind of a tough team to peg, man.
DJ, this is one where I believe the Saints are banking on coaching improving the team more so than personnel improving the team. That there's a sense maybe internally that Kellen Moore, Brandon Staley will find a way to put together the right X and O's to help this team improve, as opposed to, hey, we're going to revamp the roster and do those things. And I know they're hamstrung. There's some salary cap issues.
They just keep pushing it. They don't ever take their medicine, man. They just keep pushing it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an older team, and I don't know, man. Like at some point, you do have to wash it out. It certainly doesn't help that, man, some of your players like Peyton Turner never really gave them anything when they took him. Like you gotta nail some of these picks to be able to kind of rebuild and retool on the fly, and they haven't been able to do that consistently.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought first year head coach, I thought this would be the year to take the medicine. Like, and we've got quarterbacks coming over the next couple of years. Like, just take your medicine now. I don't want to say run to the bottom, tank, whatever you want to, everybody gets upset when you use those words, but they were kind of, this was the time. Like you don't want to do this year 2 or year 3 of your new head coach. Like do it right now. That's what I didn't understand.
Yeah. I mean, like it's easier to just go ahead and pull the plug on everything the first year you come in and reestablish the culture and do it all, as opposed to trying to make the jump, particularly when you look at their team and older roster. But maybe, Kellen Moore got in there, assessed the situation, was like, no. We're just a tweak. We don't need to. We're just a retool, not a rebuild away from being a contender. We'll see who's right at the end of the year.
Yeah. All right. This is still weird to say. San Francisco, last place team in the NFC West, Buck, 6-11, and this is a team where the losses are much greater than the additions. Demarcus Robinson, receiver, was added. They added Grant, the safety, but dude, this is a team that just, Debo's gone, Greenlaw's gone, Hargrave, Hufanga, Javarius Ward, Jalen Moore, their tackle, got big money. They let go of Juszczyk. Floyd got cut. Massive departures, and not much in the way of incoming here, Buck. Is this team finishing? I don't see how they're not going to finish in last place again next year. You see any other way they get ahead of these other teams in the division?
Well, I would say it has little to do with the personnel and more to do with the energy within the locker room and the building. It seemed like last year, from the outside looking in, that this team was fractured coming off of that Super Bowl. You saw Deebo Samuel act out publicly on the sideline with teammates. You saw Brandon Ayuk have issues, one, trying to get the contract. Then when he did agree to a contract, he comes in and kind of gets into some things where he wasn't in the right frame of mind and didn't appear to fully kind of buy in or play up or live up to the standards that they've created. And you have some other little issues that kind of rear this ugly head throughout the course of a very, very difficult season. To me, this is a perfect time for the Niners to reset. And the reset isn't necessarily like roster rebuilding or tooling, but it's getting back to keeping the main thing the main thing. The Niners are at their best when they play complementary ball and there's a certain vibe that you have with the team. They got to get that vibe back. They are kind of like the bullies on the block. They play a certain way that makes others wilt over time. They need to make sure that they're bringing in the people, the personnel that believe in that blue collar style and work towards doing that as they're contemplating how to pay the quarterback, because it seems like that's going to be a little contentious negotiation now that we're coming off a disappointing year for the team. How much money are we willing to pay Brock Purdy as QB1?
This feel a lot like and I don't want to say an imitation of the Rams, like the Rams just kind of retooled everything and they hit on draft picks like nobody's business over a couple years. And all of a sudden you look up and this defense is totally different than it was a couple years ago. They're all young. They're all hungry. They're all fast. To me, it feels like San Francisco saw that within the division, saw a team that had been, not only had been in, but it actually won the Super Bowl. And then they totally revamped everything. It feels like they're trying to do similarly with some stars still in place there. When you still have Fred Warner and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, like you still got some big time stars there. But obviously Trent Williams, best left tackle in the NFL. So they still have those core stars. And, I use this analogy on another show talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, that there's almost kind of an NBA-ification of some of these organizations. The Eagles have said, we're going to invest and pay these core. We're going to identify the 5, right? The 5 to 7 guys. We're going to pay them.
Mm-hmm.
But then we are going to let other guys walk. We're going to get comp picks, and we're going to draft our butts off and hit on young, cheap players to fill in around those 5 to 7 expensive guys.
I'm glad you brought up the Philadelphia Eagles. I know Howie Roseman is a friend of the show and a close friend of yours. I hate to do shameless plugs for other podcasts, but I heard Howie Roseman's conversation with Todd McShay on the Todd McShay show. DJ, it was enlightening. I do understand why you guys are close, because he dropped some gems in there about team building. But one of the things that has come out, not just on that podcast, but of late, he talked about learning the lessons from when the Eagles dealt with the Super Bowl and the success years ago, and the mistakes that they made when they went a couple years ago, where they got sentimental and nostalgic and kept a lot of players that were kind of fringe. I don't know. And this year they were swift and decisive. They won it, but it was almost as if they acted like they didn't win it. They made very shrewd decisions. For the Niners, that also comes into play. No matter what happens the previous year, no matter how far we go, when we're thinking about next year is an independent decision that doesn't have the carryover from the previous season. If they get back to that and stick to that premise, it gives them a chance to build the team that they need for what they have ahead going forward.
I think the smart organizations are operating this way. I mean, we just talked about the Rams and the Eagles. I don't know who has a better reputation than those two organizations for being forward thinking and being smart. And I think holding on and trying to do the reunion tour, so to speak, it's not a good track record of that, Buck. It's hard. It's hard to watch a lot of good familiar names who've been really good players and productive for you walk out the building. But if you trust your process, there's a very famous phrase in sports. If you just trust it, that's the way you operate, man. You let those out, and guess what? I'm going to bring in a bunch of other new young guys, and we're going to get new stars that are going to emerge out of this pile.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things where the new stars are going to emerge out of the pile. You have to be confident in the way that you go about doing business, your scouting department, your coaching, in terms of how they develop players. We can talk about the Eagles and the Rams kind of being the North Star for being able to kind of rebuild and flip it on the fly. But let's also understand why it works for both of those teams. They get the right people. We can talk about how the talent is or whatever, but when you look at the profile of the players that they select and the players that they bring in, their cultural fits. That's why it works. The chemistry and continuity is underrated. It's the X factor, the secret sauce that no one can really quantify, but that's why those teams get it. And it's really important that as a team builder, you know exactly what type of team you want to have and what kind of guys fit the profile.
Yeah, no, I think all that stuff ends up working together to build the best team, not to have the most talent. Those are two different things. This was a fun one, Buck. I just kind of wanted to focus on those bottom teams there and what they've accomplished here in free agency. We're heading out to Dallas. When are you getting out there, by the way?
Tuesday afternoon.
All right, we'll be together and a little Big 12 pro days. We'll be out there for a few days. We'll do a show. I'm sure we'll do a show together while we're out there as well, and kind of keep up with everything as some of these free agency deals. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will decide where he wants to play by the time
you know what? Why not wait to draft weekend? If you're you know what? I'm just going to wait to draft weekend to make a decision on where I want to play. Just keep all of us in suspense, waiting on what he wants to do.
Oh, man. Interesting times, my friend. All right. Stay dry. It's raining outside here in California. Doesn't happen very often. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.